for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
I'm Katy Steele.
And I'm Jack Prince.
And we've got quite a few stories to get to today. We're going to skip our usual letting you know how to listen to us. You guys already know how to listen to us. So just tell you what, do me a favor. Tell 5 of your friends about Southpaws. Tell them to listen to Apple Podcasts. Tell them to listen to their local Pacifica station. Get 5 of your friends turned on to our show. We would greatly appreciate it. I want to go ahead and start with the quote of the week. This one is from George Washington. He said, "A primary object should be the education of our youth in the science of government. In a republic, what species of knowledge can be equally important? And what duty more pressing than communicating it to those who are to be the future guardians of the liberties of the country?" Wow, that's pretty heavy stuff, even for the 1700s. Oh, man. Before we get started, I do have a correction. We were talking about the Pandora Papers last week, and Katy, you were mentioning another set of papers. You were calling them the Paramount. It was the Paradise Papers.
Paradise, thank you.
So
I knew there was something wrong with that word.
It was Panama, Paradise, and now Pandora. So we'll see what Pandora's box brings with this here. We do have
Big box.
Yeah,
12
exactly.
million documents.
Yeah, exactly. We do have a couple of updates to stories that we have covered in the past on this show. The first one here is from the Associated Press, dated October 13th, out of Newaygo, Michigan. In March, a teen accidentally detonated a homemade explosive at a school in western Michigan. Yeah, he went to Newaygo High School with what was basically a bomb, and it accidentally went off and blew this kid's thumbs off of his hands. Well, they arrested his dad for it, and now he's going to prison for 4 years. David Saylor Sr. was sentenced by a federal judge in Grand Rapids. In March, Saylor's son brought a homemade explosive to Newaygo High School and accidentally detonated it, injuring himself and others. Authorities subsequently searched Saylor's home and filed charges. He pleaded guilty to possession of a pipe bomb and a stolen gun. He later admitted that he and his son designed and made explosives for 2 years. This is
It's a family bonding thing.
right by where I grew up. Isn't that just lovely?
Wow.
And Jack, didn't you get in an argument with somebody who was trying to claim that this guy that he was a Bernie supporter? Or
No,
it turned out
he was
a Trump supporter.
Trump supporter. And they go, how do you know that? Well, there was a picture right after the story broke.
Oh, yeah.
Of a Trump sign right in the front
outside
yard.
his house, yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I'd post that, and then they'd shut up right away. But this, you remember show and tell. And if you open the door up in Newaygo for anything memento to bring in from the house, I would expect to see.
I would expect weapons.
Yeah, weapons.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we went up there, Jack, when Dr. Rob Davidson was running for Congress against Bill Huizenga.
Yeah.
And
in fact, that was this anniversary.
Yeah.
That came up on my phone.
Oh, wow.
That was 3 years ago.
Wow. It's been that long?
Yeah, you made a comment about our conversation with Rick Albin.
Yeah, your conversation with Rick Albin, man. It was your
you
retort.
Posted that, and it came up on my phone this morning.
What was it you told Rick? Something to the effect of...
And make sure you report that Huizenga got his ass kicked. and then I said, thank you, Republican Albin, because he is a hack for the Republicans.
Yeah, and has been forever. Yeah, that was also the night that I got there early, and I was waiting outside for you and Sharon to show up, and the kids from the Newaygo football team had just gotten done practicing or whatever. Man, they were just... You should have heard the garbage coming out of their mouth. Oh, if a girl gets an abortion, she should get her ass beat and stuff like that. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Just the misogynistic violence.
Yeah. Well, they have
from these little punks up in Hicktown, Newaygo. Well, the whole damn county is Hicktown. Sorry, you live there. So, no, it's unbelievable. One more update before we get into new topics here. We've talked about ShotSpotter on this show and how there have been stories that have come out over the years that it's maybe not quite as accurate as they claim that it is. Well, they're fighting back on this one. This is Chris Mills Rodrigo writing for The Hill. This is dated October the 12th. Listen to this. The gunshot detection company ShotSpotter on Monday filed a $300 million defamation lawsuit against Vice Media, alleging it made a series of false statements and a series of stories on the company's practices and the effectiveness of its acoustic technology. ShotSpotter argues in the case that reporting by Vice's tech vertical Motherboard has cost it trust and contracts with police departments. It filed the complaint in Delaware Superior Court. ShotSpotter CEO Ralph Clark told reporters Tuesday, quote, Vice crossed a serious line. We couldn't let this pass. We're forced to set the record straight and recover our damages through this lawsuit, end of quote. Yeah, this is basically a slap suit, strategic lawsuit against public participation. This is the same thing that Peter Thiel did to, not Gizmodo, what was the website that he shut down over the Hulk Hogan sex tape suit?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. Peter Thiel bankrolled Hulk Hogan's lawsuit and got that website shut off forever.
So isn't this just another example, though, of paying a different scientist to say what you want them to say? I mean, there's always a different...
You know what? That's a very good point.
Whoever you want to hire.
And as long as you can get it precedented, you get a judge to make that decision, and now you've got a new precedent, and maybe now the bar has been lowered for the next ShotSpotter. You know what I mean? Like, this is scary to me, because I don't think it's just about them making money. I think it's about them being able to do what they're doing and have no liability.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's always this third-party thing. I've got a real problem with that, too. When we're not contracting directly with a company, when it's working out the way it is, to where the police department doesn't own those things or take responsibility for that, but it comes back to this company. Now you've got this third party that, I mean, honestly, shouldn't the police be held liable for using equipment that doesn't work or prove that it does? But we're not having that. We're having Vice Media and the company arguing with each other, and nobody's calling that out and going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
A spokesperson for Vice declined to comment on the lawsuit given the ongoing case. Motherboard has published half a dozen articles on the controversial gun detection technology, but Monday's lawsuit primarily focused on one in July, alleging that ShotSpotter had altered evidence for court cases at the behest of police.
Well, try to prove differently. It's not like you can walk in and have for access to all of the police information, to every detail of an investigation. They don't have to give it to us. So how do we prove that?
Yeah. Vice's article claims that the company has worked to help support the police's narrative of events in several cases, sometimes even deleting evidence that would clash with how law enforcement described altercations. The article is based on public court documents and testimony from experts who have raised doubts about the accuracy of ShotSpotter's tech at identifying gunshots. Monday's lawsuit alleges that Motherboard took that information out of context and intentionally excluded examples where ShotSpotter evidence was used in court successfully. Well, they're not reporting on that. They're reporting on
the mistakes when it wasn't right. Exactly.
Yeah. Everybody wants to say, they need to show both sides. No.
Well, let me compare it to another situation that's similar. Totally different things, but look at the parking downtown, right? You've got a parking app that you're dealing with. You've got all this different software that's not owned by the city. So if there's a glitch or something doesn't work, you have to call customer service at that place, right?
Yes.
So I call there and I say to her, okay, the parking meter isn't working. I spent 2 hours getting this spot. I've got it. I'm trying to pay. It won't let me. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Okay, you're sorry, but I have to go to work. There's nowhere else to park. What if I get a ticket? Well, then you're responsible for that ticket, ma'am. Well, then who is accountable here? And she's like, well, we're a third party.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
And that's the thing. If you just stick a third party there in the middle.
Yeah. Isn't that what an attorney is?
We've talked about privatization on this
Registered
show. This is
agents
another
as well.
case. You know,
Oh, yeah. Everything is.
Yeah, it's got a protective wall as a third party. And one of their techniques I've ran into trying to get my prescription paid for. They initially were going to do it, then they backed out. They said it was damaged, so now they can't pay. My doctor gave me some samples. But every time you call, it's a different person. And I've even bounced from country to country. You know, I'll get to the Philippines one time. I'll say, do you have any notes on this? Supposedly you granted me my prescription just 30 days ago. Now I need another one, you see.
Right.
And they won't do it. I said, I was back in the system. Well, we have no record of that. What do you mean you have no record of that? That you have a computer sitting right in front of you. No, we don't have record that this was ever granted, so you're going to have to wait until the 3 months are up. And so they practice in ways to negate
having to
the
do
law.
anything. And their whole job is not to help you, but it is to protect themselves or their agency from liability.
Exactly.
That is their entire responsibility.
That's who you're dealing with constantly.
Well, and instead of in the city of Grand Rapids, the example is 211 now. Every problem you have, any public official you go to, oh, no worries, just call 211. Anything they tell you to call 211. Does 211 actually do anything for anybody? I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody once call 211 and get any kind of resource or help that was real. But that is the answer from every single highly paid public official in town. And that's how they're outsourcing our jobs as well. Because
aren't we looking at the complete erosion of any standard of truth?
1,000%. But everything is privatized now, so there is no liability. What do we do? Who do you go to?
You don't. I mean, when the police are corrupt, somebody famous said there is no law.
Right. That's exactly it.
And we have no law with science any longer.
Right.
You know, there are laws in science that have never been disproven.
Oh, exactly.
But they're just being summarily ignored.
They will pay somebody to give you bad evidence to disprove it.
Yeah.
And that works.
We're talking about the Holocaust earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, and at some point, if they
bit.
continue to incite violence and raise our kids with these violent thoughts and visualizations all the time, right? Surrounded by violence, surrounded by a lack of, just a complete saturation of apathy, just, nothing matters except yourself, then you get to a point where...
To kind of cement on what you just said, let me read you this quote. This is Tom Clare, who is a high-profile First Amendment attorney that's representing ShotSpotter. Listen to what he said. Quote, "The court records that we've cited in the complaint show exactly the opposite. 190 court cases plus where ShotSpotter technology was repeatedly tested by the most rigorous experts in evidentiary standards." End of quote. Who hired those experts?
Yep. How do we know that they were the most rigorous experts? And how did they, did they just go around and shoot a bunch of people? And that was how you came up with that scientific evidence? Because if it's a study, show me the study. I want to see the science.
Yeah. See, and there's no agreed upon
standard for it, right?
At all.
They're the ones that are making the agreed upon absolutes, and that's the thing. They build every system we are forced to live by, and the only people the laws don't apply to are them. Yep. So,
there's really smart people that graduate from the universities, but they get sucked up with these institutions, agencies, to solve problems like how do we take bedrock truth that, for example, Iran weapons were sold by, how do we slowly erode that away? How do we take 700,000 people dead, carcasses, in the United States, right, and say, no, you suggest that maybe these death certificates have a political objective. So rather than dying of Crohn's disease, you put down just easy COVID. That's really what it is. Now, nobody's going to go through and scorecard how many were not really deceased by COVID.
Well, that's the thing.
You just stole the whole damn 650,000 out the window. And my uncle, he smoked all his life. Hell, he ate bacon. I saw it every morning.
Right.
He's 95. He was still chasing women in his four-wheel drive. Don't tell me that this stuff's bad for you.
Right? I know. But that's the thing. All the issues that are the hottest ones that everybody is jumping on are the ones that can really be swung either way. It could be this way because of this, or it could be this way because of that. And
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
looking at the
Yeah.
American Airlines employees, for example. Right now, half the world is convinced that they are on a strike. And the other half of the world is convinced that there just aren't enough pilots, aren't enough staff.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how we can have this complete, absolute discrepancy in perspectives with
Are-
no actual evidence on either side.
Are you talking about Southwest?
It's now American, Southwest, and another airline that are supposedly all three on strike. I'm serious. It keeps changing, the rumors, but I'm telling you, if you can go on both sides and find evidence that both sides are right. If you go look it up, go Google it.
You can't.
You're
There's
laughing,
nothing that's
and
not
people,
ambivalent.
people are making everybody else sound like they're the idiots, and we're the smart ones. But that's making us look like idiots because it is complete ambivalence anywhere you look. You can't find solid proof of either side.
Yeah, I read a book. Did it start with asbestos? Somewhere where they hired, what would they be? They're not psychiatrists. How do you ruin things that are bedrock? How can you erode them?
Behavioral analysis
Is that
or
what
whatever
they are?
I think that's exactly what
And
those people are
they
doing.
said it's very simple. All you have to do is submit just a little bit of doubt. So the tobacco industries, they just went to these guys, and they paid for comments on Facebook.
Oh,
that somebody
absolutely.
would
The
make.
bots and everything.
Just-
And it's the
right.
consultant groups. I mean, look, the consultant group that was hired by the city of Grand Rapids to help us make better community relations with our police department. Literally, it was the old head of the Capitol Commission, John
And that's where we got
Truscott.
the pastors that walk around with the.
Oh, that's where they got the idea. Yeah. They were the ones that recruited the pastors. They're the ones that they have all the media messaging figured out. And they're the ones that throw out the pictures of the cops playing basketball with the kids and all this other stuff. The only answers they gave us for like a $50,000 consultancy contract was to communicate better with the people in the city.
Yeah.
Pretty heady.
Yeah, it was a real deep study.
Let's get a PR firm so that we can
That's the
spend more
thing.
money.
We should. We should start a group called Absolutes.
That's the thing. You can because
What's left? What the hell's left?
it does. I was on
The Holocaust
Facebook
didn't
Marketplace this morning, and there's a guy selling a bunch of stop signs. Swear to God in my life, bunch of stop signs, regular stop signs, nothing wrong with them. All of them got the 2 holes because they got taken right off the poles.
He's selling them.
And not to I was in a fight earlier this week because some poor girl was selling 4 bus cards and got annihilated because those were government paid and she needed to go use them for what she was supposed to, take yourself to work. But this guy is selling a stack of stop signs that we paid thousands for. And everybody was defending him.
$100,000.
They're defending him on how, there are way worse things we're wasting our money on than stop signs. But why are we buying more so he can sell them? Does that not make you guys mad?
That's incredible. And you watch the news. There's guys going through drugstores with Santa Claus bags, big plastic bags, just throwing drugs in the bag. And a guard's taking pictures. There's a guy that's got a guard uniform on taking pictures of the guy.
Oh, you're
in
talking
San
about,
Francisco,
you're
but
talking
it's
about
spreading
San
now all
Francisco,
over.
yeah.
Yeah, good. Let him just steal it at this point because I feel like people have a better chance of getting their medicine if normal people have it in their hands than if the drug companies have it.
But the thing is, they're not even stealing that. It's they're taking everything. Toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, you name it. I mean, they're just
Take it.
big.
Go rob
They're
those big
saying it's
corporations.
organized crime. Right? This isn't just Granny getting her Polident.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and this has been a thing. I've been getting since the bars on Division were open back in the day. They would go through with bags of the stuff that they would steal from the pharmacy and sell it for $1 for this or that. Oh yeah, they'd come through and I'd be, okay, I'll take that. And it was more of an organized thing back then. But I think, yeah.
But there is no absolute left. You could say, what's absolute? And people could say nothing. And you could say, are you absolutely sure? I mean, it's the erosion of absolutes.
Right.
And what does a kid when he's 13 think? There's no heroes, right? You look at Trump, you look at who the hell's a hero? You see police beating people on screen. Hero's not the right word, but
where is the hero? It is the right word because the guy on the white horse, somebody saves us in the end of every movie. So where is it? Who is it? What are we waiting on?
Yeah. Lone Ranger's dead. Roy Rogers dead.
Yeah. Well, no, it's worse than
know?
that. Did you see Superman now is kissing his boyfriend?
Oh, that's Superman's son.
Oh, Superman's son.
Yeah.
I don't care. I think that's fantastic that's happening. But think about the
Katie's got this
I just see
confused
this.
look
I
on her
see
face.
no. I just see a narrative happening where it is gender, family, things that just were like facts. These were facts, and I mean, I'm not questioning how anybody identifies. I'm just saying that when they're changing everything in the world around those things, it's not everything in the world they care about changing. They're trying to change those things.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way I'm seeing it right now.
It's just a quicksand.
Yeah, it's not.
We're standing on.
It's not the result. It's the cause.
It's like, what is the agenda here? Is my question.
Yeah.
And is it for our own? Is it for our betterment or for our worse? Because I don't feel like this is going to be about improvements. I don't feel like anything being done by these powerful oligarchs right now is actually to help us. So.
No, it's to help themselves, and we know that. We've known that for years. Although there are some workers fighting back, because now we've got another strike to talk about. This is Associated Press out of Moline, Illinois. More than 10,000 John Deere workers went on strike Thursday, the first major walkout at the agricultural machinery giant in 35 years. The union has said its members would walk off the job if no deal had been reached by Wednesday. The vast majority of the union rejected a contract offer earlier this week that would have delivered 5% raises to some workers, 6% to others. So, yeah, about 10,000 employees. We did the math, but we were talking about it before we started recording. John Deere is already made $4.9 billion in profit so far this year. If you took $500 million and you distributed it to the striking workers, each worker would get $50,000, and the company would still have over $4 billion in profit. Something is absolutely wrong with this picture when the CEOs are making a hell of a lot more than the workers are.
It's across the board.
Yeah.
This is the way that they structured it.
They sure have. And when you see Bezos
This
qualify
isn't
for
an
child tax
accident.
credit.
This is on purpose.
Yep. And the guys in charge of all those corporations that are actually showing up and running it are convinced that those guys deserve to stay at home and do no work, I guess. Because, I mean, how do you do that? How do you hire somebody to do everything for you and you take all the money? At some point, you've got somebody with a lot of power in that corporation.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing in the Squid Games, where now they're saying it's really just a parody of the huge difference between wealth, where you got a nation with no money and you got one guy with $45 billion.
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs in one quarter made $13.6 billion. That's in one quarter. You know what a quarter is?
Yeah, 3 months.
3 months.
It went up in 47% in one frigging quarter.
And when was that?
Just the last
Just
quarter.
this last quarter? Okay. Because Goldman Sachs, their old execs are the ones who left. Remember, Secchi left Goldman Sachs just before he died and went to a hedge fund. There were a bunch of them that bailed right before, in 2017, 2018, went to their own separate hedge funds just before this happened, and somehow strategically ended up in the perfect position to make a ton of money off of COVID. It's almost as if they knew this was going to happen.
See, I knew something was up when the guy in Squid Game, they were down to 10 people. Why didn't they say, hey, we'll take the $45 billion, we'll split it 10 ways,
That's
right?
what I said. I looked around and was like, you guys can do a majority vote. Why is nobody doing a majority vote?
No, it's got to be one guy with everything, with the money.
In the end, there was never going to be more than one guy.
That's right.
Why do you think the rules of monopoly are set the way that they are?
Good point. Yeah.
Well,
he's the winner.
Technically, the one guy gets all the money. That's when game over, right?
Yeah.
That's what I keep telling everybody. You've played Monopoly, right? How does it end? Because that's how capitalism ends.
Yep.
45. The pharmaceutical business, $55 billion.
Well, and people are still
fighting.
convinced that these people are going to have some market crash, bubble burst, and they're just going to have to give everything away for free.
No, they're well insulated.
I know, but why do people keep thinking they're waiting on a crash? There is not going to be a crash. I'm sorry.
And if there is a crash, it's not going to matter because, again, the rich are well insulated.
Exactly. Like,
You can't even find out how rich they are.
No, you can't even find out how many empty places are downtown, because if we knew that, they wouldn't let us build more.
No.
And
what did they say? The King of Jordan has bought dozens of homes here.
Yeah.
Nobody knows whose names it. Jordan is so poor. They're third in the list of aid that the United States gives. Israel's number one.
Yeah.
They're that poor, and the
They're
king
oil
is
rich,
buying
aren't they?
Malibu houses, according to Pandora's box.
I believe they are. Yeah.
Oh, well, I believe the King of Jordan went to school here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's pretty westernized.
Yeah, I think he went to University of
He
Tennessee.
knows
I'll have to look
what
that
is
up.
that.
Or
Yep.
Texas. He might have went to Texas. Something.
Yep. Earlier this year, the UAW went on strike at a Volvo trucks plant in Virginia. They got better pay and lower cost health benefits. They had rejected 3 tentative contract offers before they went on strike. By the way, John Deere's not the only one. We mentioned the Kellogg strike last week. Mm-hmm. It looks like Kaiser Permanente employees at nursing homes, et cetera, are going to go on strike. And it looks like the employees of IATSA, these are the people that are behind the scenes for all your movies and television shows, stage productions for that matter. They go on strike, and that'll cripple Hollywood for a while.
Yeah, that would be locally, that would be like our Van Andel Arena workers. So.
Yep.
Strike over, they're calling it.
Well,
Yeah.
and I wonder if they're strategically waiting because live music is really just coming back. Mm-hmm. It'd be a convenient time to.
Yep,
Yeah.
it absolutely would. Well, Jack, I know you had something you wanted to talk about over there.
Well, yeah, I'm a real proponent of the CRT and the 19, what is it, 1619. But
The 1619 project.
we have some uniquely stupid people, and they're wanting now to have a balance, if you can believe that. Hey, there you go. This is the same balance you're just referring to. Both sides mean they're nullified, right?
Right.
Nothing more boring than a teeter-totter that's totally
That's
balanced.
just balanced.
Right.
Yeah.
So the balance that they want is that you have a balance of teaching the Holocaust to our children. I'm going to let it sit right there because I really don't know how the hell you could do that.
That's in Texas. What town in Texas?
Southlake.
Southlake, yes. Which NBC News has a podcast series about what's happening in Southlake.
So wouldn't the opposing view be pro-eugenics? Wouldn't that be the opposing view to
It
the
would seem to me.
Holocaust? I mean, it's pro-eugenics. Now,
pro-fascism.
but I mean, the fascism was really the way to get to the eugenics. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think once he had his whole army of his, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people.
Okay, but that's not what they're going to suggest is the balance. Are we right? We agreed upon that?
I don't know. No, I think we may be coming to a point now where it is really hard to say anything else. What else do you say?
So we put fascism on the table. See, I think they're going to say something. Well, no, those numbers were all inflated, just like the insurrection on the 6th. Those were tourists. They
weren't really killed.
peaceful.
I mean, we've got photos of piles
of
dead bodies.
I know.
We've got photos of people burying
But
them with
those
smiles.
were photo ops. You know that. Those were only put in there because of the anti-Semitic backlash. That's what those were. And people have no ability to decipher what the hell's true anymore. So they just kind of settle on the whole thing. Yeah, balance of history? Sure. Hell yes.
You got to be fair.
You got to be fair. Balance sounds great. And my kid should
You know,
have
my
the freedom
view-
to study balance. My
Racists
God.
have been oppressed for a really long time.
My views on that, because we got to be balanced in the media. No, you don't. You're there to report the facts, period. If somebody says it's raining and somebody else says it's not raining, it is the reporter's job to stick his head out the window and see if rain is falling on
But
him.
we are in
That
a
is
world
so
right now
true.
where you are going to have 2 stations that are going to hire 2 different meteorologists.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is going to say, it's damp and there's this much humidity and it feels like it's raining, so it's raining. And the other one's going to say, over here in this spot, no drops fell, so it's not raining. And then you're going to have everybody in between arguing and sticking up for their meteorologist because they need their guy to win.
Yeah. It's scary. Isn't that Fox's moniker, fair and balanced?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair and balanced, my ass.
I was thinking today, if we're going to be fair and balanced, why do we have an agency for criminal justice, right? We've got a whole agency that we are giving half of our money to in Wyoming. We don't have a single agency for social justice. We don't have one for economic justice. We don't have one for environmental justice. We don't have one for racial justice. Why are we paying so much for criminal justice? Why do we care so much about being able to arrest
Because
each
it's
other if we
criminal.
don't care about being able to help each other survive. Like,
it's criminal. You said for criminal justice.
It's power.
Well, it's criminal. When they say criminal justice,
right? It is a criminal justice program.
The justice is. It's
yeah,
criminal.
It is criminal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the same-day delivery signs on these trucks. I'm thinking, who wants the same day? They deliver the same day, right?
I've already had this day. I want a new day.
Same day delivery. The hell with that.
I'm way over this day, especially if I'm behind that truck.
Katy wasn't sure.
I had to think about that one for a minute. I was like, sometimes I want stuff the same day.
Oh, my gosh. Well, something that we don't want, and Katy, I know you want to talk about this. Through an article published at The Intercept, they have revealed Facebook's secret blacklist called the DIO, Dangerous Individuals and Organizations.
Yeah, I've been wondering for at least a couple of years now how they judge their bannings and their suspensions, because it seems like so many of my friends are constantly getting Facebook jailed or, can't comment, can't post. And I've had issues where, like, I'll be in a group and the moderator doesn't like what I'm saying, so they'll cut me off for a certain amount of time.
Like the rock group this week.
Yeah, like the rock group. Don't ever tell people in the rock group that, like, the earth belongs to all of us, because they really like to argue about their landscape rocks. Oh, I almost caught a case this week, but I spent so much on my landscape rocks. I better not catch you taking them. I'll call the police. Yeah, okay, whatever. So I've been kicked out for stuff like that, but I've never actually been banned or Facebook jailed. And so seeing these terms and the different levels that they have and what they're actually judging people on, it's obvious. I'm starting to understand why. It's because what they're doing is they're looking at what groups you follow, who you support, and if it's anybody on their list that they have deemed dangerous,
not what you say,
then you get marks against you.
And this has been going
until they
for
ban
years now.
Yeah.
Kind of like the 8th grade.
And ultimately, the terrorist groups that they have listed as the highest ranking terrorist groups are brown and marginalized community, a lot of Arab people, African American groups, Latino groups are going to be in the terrorist organization. But then you've got all these white supremacist groups that are like a level below them. So it's very, you can say it's not discriminatory, but it looks very discriminatory to me.
I'm going to skip around on this article a little bit here. This is Sam Biddle writing for The Intercept. This is dated October 12th. I'm going to skip down a little bit. The restrictions appear to trace back to 2012, when in the face of growing alarm in Congress and the United Nations about online terrorist recruiting, Facebook added to its community standards a ban on organizations with a record of terrorist or violent criminal activity. That is a quote from their community standards. This modest rule has since ballooned into what's known as the Dangerous Individuals and Organization Policy, a sweeping set of restrictions on what Facebook's nearly 3 billion users can say about an enormous and ever-growing roster of entities deemed beyond the pale. In recent years, the policy has been used at a more rapid clip, including against the President of the United States, and taken on almost totemic power at the social network, trotted out to reassure the public whenever paroxysms of violence, from genocide in Myanmar to riots on Capitol Hill, are linked to Facebook. Most recently, following a damning series of Wall Street Journal articles showing the company knew it facilitated myriad offline harms, a Facebook vice president cited the policy as evidence of the company's diligence in an internal memo obtained by the New York Times. Let me skip down a little bit. But as with other attempts to limit personal freedoms in the name of counterterrorism, Facebook's DIO policy has become an unaccountable system that disproportionately punishes certain communities, critics say. It is built atop a blacklist of over 4,000 people and groups, including politicians, writers, charities, hospitals, hundreds of music acts, and long-dead historical figures. A range of legal scholars and civil libertarians have called on the company to publish the list so that users know when they are in danger of having a post deleted or their account suspended for praising someone on it. The company has repeatedly refused to do so, claiming it would endanger employees and permit banned entities to circumvent the policy. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the FCC. They won't tell you what words you can't say on the air. You have to figure it out for yourself after you're
And that was the major issue.
fined and penalized.
Is that they would threaten us, but they wouldn't tell us what they considered a terrorist, which I got to say, if you read through Facebook's terms in there that they have given out to their moderators to help them make a decision on who should stay and who should go, they make it very clear that the type of content that violates their policies is therefore not allowed on the platform. Is we do not allow any of the symbols of the above organizations or individuals to be shared on the platform unless it is to condemn or neutrally discuss. Now, this is for the highest tier, the most dangerous groups.
Mm-hmm.
We do not allow content that praises any of the above organizations or individuals or any acts committed by the above organizations or individuals except violent non-state actors. So it keeps going about what they don't allow. But I got to say, I have watched a lot of people advocate for Kyle Rittenhouse over and over and over without getting banned. And everything on this list makes it very clear that he should not be supported on Facebook, that he shouldn't have his own account, and that nobody else should be allowed to advocate for what he did. But I see it every day.
Absolutely. By the way, even the company's handpicked oversight board has recommended publishing all of the list on multiple occasions,
Right.
most recently in
Right.
August.
The actual employees. And they're trying to say that the reason they won't publish it is because of employee safety. But that board is made up of employees.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, The Intercept has reviewed a snapshot of the full DIO list and is today publishing a reproduction of the material in its entirety with only minor redactions and edits to improve clarity. And by the way, they've got a link to it on this story, so just click the link and you'll see the snapshot. They are also publishing an associated policy document created to help moderators decide what posts to delete and what users to punish. So, yeah, this is just interesting stuff. Yeah, they got a list right here. Let me see.
I've got the whole list pulled up. I'm going to see if they have Kyle
That's
marked
the
on
groups?
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Organizations, terror category. And they go in alphabetical order,
Yeah, they've
too.
got crime, terror, everything.
Yeah, the Sharia 4 network. I've never heard of them. No idea who they are. Aircraft Avionics Parts and Support Limited. That's a terrorist organization, according to them, doesn't say, out of the UK. Interesting. Huh. Yeah,
It's 100
this just
pages.
goes, oh, wow.
It is
That's
100
a
pages.
lot. That is a lot of quote-unquote bad actors. Wow.
They have Moms for Freedom by any chance in there, the
Yeah.
anti-maskers? I doubt.
Let's see. The list, the foundation of Facebook's dangerous individuals and organizations policy is in many ways what the company has described in the past. A collection of groups and leaders who have threatened or engaged in bloodshed. The snapshot reviewed by The Intercept is separated into the categories hate, crime, terrorism, militarized social movements, and violent non-state actors.
So I'm looking for Kyle Rittenhouse on the individuals list to see if he's even mentioned. So far,
My
nothing.
guess is probably not. Would you look under K for Kyle or R for Rittenhouse?
It's K for Kyle.
Yeah.
But they go that the lists are all separated by the levels too.
Facebook takes most of the names in the terrorism category directly from the U.S. government. Big surprise there, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Nearly 1,000 of the entries in the dangerous terrorism list note a designation source of SDGT, which stands for Specially Designated Global Terrorist. That's a sanctions list maintained by, of all departments, Treasury, created by George W. Bush in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. In many instances, names on Facebook's list include passport and phone numbers found on the official SDGT list, suggesting entries are directly copied over. So it's just like your next-door neighbor in class cheating off of you while you're taking a test, right?
I'm just really mad that Kyle Rittenhouse is not down here for being known as for crime or for terror.
Yeah.
That is the only thing he's famous for is shooting people. Mm-hmm. You know, how is he not on this list?
There are 500. There are close to 500 hate groups in Tier 1, including the more than 250 white supremacist organizations that were referenced earlier in the article here. Faiza Pazel of the Brennan Center noted that hundreds of predominantly white this is a hard one, white right-wing militia groups that seem similar to the hate groups are treated with a light touch, and guess where they're at? Not Tier 1, Tier 3. Jesus. God. Tier 2 includes violent non-state actors. It consists mostly of groups like armed rebels who engage in violence targeting governments rather than civilians. Includes many factions fighting in the Syrian civil war. Users can praise groups in this tier for their nonviolent actions, but they may not express any substantive support for the groups themselves.
So even though so many of the Syrian people were saying that, what were they called? The helmets, the people that, you know who I'm talking about. So many of the Syrian
White
people were
helmets?
saying that the white helmets were not the terrorists that they were being made out to be. In some cases, they were helping them, and you weren't allowed to say that.
Yeah.
See, the way you say things, when you couldn't decipher between white and right,
Yeah.
you realize
It's the
Malcolm
same.
wrote a whole book on the synonyms to black. Have you ever gone to that book?
No, I haven't.
No.
Mysterious, wrong, evil. It goes on and on. The word and the
Yeah,
word itself
yeah.
is be lack, is lack. Where right is so close to white, and right means correct.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Right.
Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
is
the
it an
critical
accident?
race theory, you know.
Yeah.
Critical is bad.
Yeah, critical's bad. Yeah. But people don't hear that though.
Yeah.
I mean, I sound like George Carlin in some ways, taking words and putting more meaning behind it, but I don't think
No,
so.
I think psychologically that was there on purpose, and it's absolutely
Well,
done
white,
its
the
job.
Virgin Mary, you wear a white gown.
Right.
It's pure as the driven snow, white, and black. You can't see it. You can't understand it. It's,
Right, it's scary.
Brown's worse?
It's so, yeah, and it's
You're
so
not
subtle.
You're not in a white hole. You're in a black hole when you're, you know. And
Did you see Michael Moore's where they have a news report back 20 years ago? The bees are flying from Africa. These are the killer bees.
killer
Killer
bees.
bees.
The
from
African
Africa.
bee is bigger and more deadly than the more innocuous European bee.
Oh,
Now,
Well,
it sounds
of
like a
course.
legitimate scientific,
but
I
they're talking
wonder.
about
You know what I mean?
Africans. They're talking about people.
Is science a racist or what?
Yeah.
It's whatever they want it to be at this point.
Let me read this here. Anti-government militias, among those receiving more measured interventions from Facebook, quote, present the most lethal domestic violent extremist threat, end of quote, to the U.S. Intelligence officials concluded earlier this year, a view shared by many non-governmental researchers. A crucial difference between alleged foreign terror groups and, say, the Oath Keepers is that domestic militia groups have considerable political capital and support on the American right.
I think that's why this is such a really big, scary issue for me. What we're seeing now is that people like Mark Zuckerberg, people like Bezos, people that have control of these huge, like, software and communication programs are controlling the laws also. Mm-hmm. They're lobbying for everything they want to happen. That's so right. When we see a private, confidential blueprint like this for who is a terrorist and why, we aren't just seeing some private company making their own rules. We are seeing a future of our legal system. This is how they are going to designate us. This is how our actions are going to be seen in public in a legal environment. And this is how they're going to grade us. And so we have to prepare for a future where we're answering
make
to
the rule books,
we're answering to.
Well, the corporations are already making the rules. We got ALEC; they're writing all the laws.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and it's been this system we know before they ever came over and stole the land from the Native Americans was written long before this on a land far, far away.
The EPA has ex-Shell oil executives
Oh,
that are
yes.
writing policy.
Yep.
I mean, it's a corporate. You know, and what gets me too is all these excuses for the high cost of things. Okay, be it gas, but you know, a loaf of bread, whatever. It's the truck drivers that never came back. It's a lack of truck drivers. It's the lazy people that refuse to go back to work. They never say it's the greed of the corporations using this to milk as much profit as they can.
Because the bigger
Absolutely.
picture isn't even just that. It is the actions of the corporations that caused this.
Yes.
And now we're going to milk it.
Getting that B.
Yep. We're going to we're going to milk it. We're going to make it your responsibility. We're
Right.
going to make it your fault.
Yep.
And
C,
we're going to
that's
sit
C.
back. Yes. And it's so sick to me to
That's
see
all, the whole
it
circle.
all works
Yeah.
in as long as you keep us all arguing over these little things. You know, we'll never notice that they're completely reorganizing the economy and that we're never going to leave the bottom of this totem pole.
Yeah. As my mom said, it's not the need, it's the greed.
And now it's the need, I think, because the greed has been satisfied, right? So now they're in this position where they've got power and they've got money, right? But do they have the intelligence and the ability in this late stage of oligarchy to save the world, to save civilization? That's the question, because these aren't the smartest people we've given it all to.
No.
We didn't hand everything over to the real geniuses.
Yeah, just look at Donald Trump.
They're trying to save themselves, not us. But my question is, can they even do that? Because I don't know.
It's short
No,
term. As long as they can get the plastic surgery next month for their cousin.
Right.
It's not how long the world will last.
Yeah, you're so right.
By the way, one example in this story, the extreme right movement known as the Boogaloo, which advocates for a second civil war, is considered a militarized social movement, which would make it subject to the relatively lenient Tier 3 rules.
Let's keep in mind, this is one of the most ambivalent of these military groups. Happened to pop up right in the middle of the 2016 election when all of this was being engineered. So, of course, they're going to be on the list. And they're going to cause one of the biggest rifts on both sides.
Mm-hmm. This is scary stuff.
Ambivalence. That's what they're cashing in on.
We'll make sure that this article is posted to our Facebook page because it is very lengthy, but it's very important. So we'll have it at facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. Well, I guess we might as well try and bring some levity to the show here. So let's play the appropriate music.
Stop. Hammer time.
Oh, yeah, it's hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. We don't have to go too far. We have to go to the state of Missouri. I've got this story. This is Rachel Treisman, I believe, writing for National Public Radio. This is dated October 14th. Missouri Governor Mike Parson is the winner this week, Republican, of course. He is vowing to prosecute the staff of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Why? Because the newspaper said that it uncovered security vulnerabilities on a state agency website and then told the state, here, we found this, go fix it. Unbelievable. The governor is characterizing the paper's actions as a hacking that the state will investigate. He said it could cost taxpayers $50 million.
His mistake?
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
I got one word for that, and it's bullshit.
Even if it were true, it's his mistake that caused it. So not exactly going to win you votes.
Yeah, exactly. Let me continue here. Parsons said at a news conference on Thursday, quote, not only are we going to hold this individual accountable, but we will also be holding accountable all those who aided this individual and the media corporation that employs them.
We are going to hold everybody accountable except for ourselves, because that's what corporations do now.
Yeah, throw the First Amendment out the window. We don't need it anymore.
The only one with accountability here are poor civilians.
The backstory is a little complicated. It starts with a website maintained by the state's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE, D-E-S-E. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch said in a story published Wednesday night that an unnamed reporter had discovered flaws on that website that made the Social Security numbers of teachers and other school staff vulnerable to public exposure. The issue involved a web application that allowed the public to search teacher certifications and credentials. The newspaper said that no private information was clearly visible or searchable, but teachers' Social Security numbers were contained in the HTML source code of those pages. More than 100,000 Social Security numbers were vulnerable. Newspaper staff reportedly alerted DESE of the findings and delayed publishing the story to give the agency time to protect teachers' personal information and enable the state to check other websites for similar risks. DESE said it notified the Missouri Office of Administration's Information Technology Services Division to disable the problematic search tool as soon as the vulnerability was verified. The Office of Administration said in a news release on Wednesday, quote, the state is unaware of any misuse of individual information or whether information was accessed inappropriately outside of this isolated incident, end of quote. But that news release also placed the blame on the individual who had discovered the security flaw. It described the incident as a multi-step process in which, quote, a hacker took the records of at least 3 educators, decoded the HTML source code, and viewed the social security number of those specific educators, end of quote. HTML source code is publicly available to anyone with a web browser and can be accessed in just a few clicks. The Post-Dispatch disputed the agency's characterization. In reality, it said its staff had discovered the vulnerability and then confirmed with 3 educators and a cybersecurity expert that the 9-digit numbers were in fact Social Security numbers. It also pointed out that DESE did not acknowledge in its news release and in a letter to teachers the total scope of the vulnerability and the fact that thousands of Social Security numbers, quote, had been available to anyone through DESE's own search engine, end of quote. Joseph Martineau, the Post-Dispatch's attorney, called DESE's deflection and accusation unfounded in a statement published by the newspaper. He said this, quote, the reporter did the responsible thing by reporting his findings to DESE so that the state could act to prevent disclosure and misuse. A hacker is someone who subverts computer security with malicious or criminal intent. Here, there was no breach of any firewall or security, and certainly no malicious intent. End of quote. A DESE spokesperson told NPR over email on Thursday that, quote, we have every confidence that OAITSD has now protected educators' data to prevent further exposure, end of quote. She directed National Public Radio to the agency's earlier news release but declined to comment further, citing the investigation. Parson convened a news conference Thursday at which he vowed to prosecute the alleged hacking and then declined to take questions from reporters. He said that his administration had notified the Cole County prosecutor and that the Missouri State Highway Patrol's Digital Forensic Unit would also be opening an investigation into all of those involved. Those efforts could cost taxpayers as much as $50 million while diverting workers and resources from other state agencies. But he said the state is committed to, quote, standing up against any and all perpetrators who attempt to steal personal information and harm Missourians, end of quote. He also said the state would work to address those security concerns. He added, quote, this individual is not a victim. They were acting against a state agency to compromise teachers' personal information in an attempt to embarrass the state and sell headlines for their news outlet, end of quote. Once again, they got caught doing something wrong, so let's go kill the messenger, and to hell with the message. Martineau has not responded to NPR's request for comment regarding the governor's accusations. Parsons said, quote, we apologize to the hardworking Missouri teachers who now have to wonder if their personal information was compromised for pathetic political gain by what is supposed to be one of Missouri's news outlets, end of quote. Yeah, like that Republican or any other Republican in the state of Missouri gives a damn about Missouri teachers. They don't give a shit. You can quote me on that.
None of them give a crap about any of us anywhere.
Mm-hmm. So the real reason that Parson is going after them is because the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the Kansas City Star, and other media outlets have gone after Governor Parson for his handling of COVID-19. So there's the truth, folks. Mm-hmm. There's your truth. So to Governor Mike Parson for trying to trample on the First Amendment, congratulations on winning Douchebag of the Week. We've got this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
Yeah, that's right. But then again, you can't help it. You've got an R after your name, and you're all douchebags. Quote me on that, too.
Would
unbelievable stuff.
Bannon have maybe qualified to be nominated? I just got to throw this in. Wasn't there a woman named Susan McDougal who spent 18 months in jail for failing to answer a subpoena in the Whitewater scandal?
I believe so.
Is there still a law about not going if you're subpoenaed? I thought there was.
There are no laws.
That's right.
For
we
rich
forgot.
people.
I think that's right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Only us.
Exactly.
The golden rule, right? The gold rules.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. The select committee is supposed to vote on whether to file charges against Bannon, and then it has to go to a vote to the House of Representatives.
Listen, let's not pretend like there is any chance.
It's going to make any difference.
There is no chance that man will get any liability. It won't happen.
None.
None.
Absolutely none.
It's like the Lions winning in the last 30 seconds.
So we're sitting in a country of supposed
They
democracy.
fooled me on that this past weekend, by
they
the
got
way.
more than just you, Darren. I was in a sports bar at the moment, and I was just in awe of how many people are still that hopeful. And thank God they are, because, well,
It's like,
the fake
yeah,
guy
and then,
people call God.
then with no time left.
It just makes winning more valuable.
It does. But no, it's just the hope. The fact that we can still hold on to that kind of hope is there's something good in that makes me smile. But
so we're hoping
sad.
Adam Schiff brings these people in and we find out it really was a planned insurrection. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
Never happened any more than
Will
all the
never
indictments that Trump was supposed to
They
get.
knew who planned that from the beginning, and those people are above liability. What they're doing right now is the dog and pony show to keep us fighting with each other. You've got some people coming out and saying, and half of my friends are calling for these people's heads. Like they have no kind of critical thinking or foresight to tell themselves that they are next. They do not
They don't
see
see it coming,
the
do they?
next page of this.
No.
Nobody. And it is so scary to me.
Well, who sees the government hanging by a thread, or any remnant of democracy? We're just over the edge. We're standing on the precipice, and people just la along.
We're like, oh, can I help you build that prison?
It goes back.
Did you need me to get you a hammer?
Yeah.
It goes back to our quote of the week. We need to educate people in government.
Well, we need to educate people and more than that,
Yeah.
because they don't realize they're literally locking themselves out of their water and building their own prisons. They don't know.
They don't. They don't. There's one story that we're not going to be able to cover in depth, but you can read this on our official Facebook page. But I want to get your guys' comments for the next couple of minutes here. Have you heard about what's happened in Rutherford County, Tennessee, with this judge that's sending kids to jail
Yes.
for
Yes.
truancy, for minor offenses?
Things that aren't even illegal. Some of these things are not illegal.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I mean, it's horrible. There is a big article. ProPublica has published this in conjunction with Nashville Public Radio, and you folks really, really need to read this. There's already been some pushback on this judge. This judge was teaching law at a university in Tennessee. Not anymore. They kicked her off.
I would hope.
Yeah. So this is just amazing stuff.
They had a judge like this in, I think it was Ohio or someplace not too long ago. Come to find out, he was putting kids in jail, and he owned the jail.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yep.
This is pretty much the same thing here. The county, she asked for them to build a bigger facility to hold these children, and she got it.
Yeah.
Brand new facility, state of the art. The courtroom is right in the same building as the detention facility.
That's the problem with corruption and oligarchy. You've got a judge who's putting kids in jail. Now they're getting funded based on how many kids they got. So the people who are getting those contracts probably had dinner with that judge the night before.
Sorry, I got to stop you guys because we are totally out of time for this week. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele.
Jack Prince.
For Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.